Hiya! So September wrap up time. It's the 5th of October today. I had hoped to film this a few days ago, but like a lot of other people in my area, I have been a bit poorly. I've had like a flu type bug, which I'm just about getting over. So that's why I've not managed to put a video up for a couple of weeks. My husband had it and then I've had it. So we'll see how this goes. I'm still a bit breathless. My voice isn't 100%, but hopefully we can get this done because I read some amazing books in September. So I'm really excited to talk about them. So my overall count for September was 14 books again, which is actually what I read in August as well. So it's another really high month for me. There were quite a few novellas or really short books as well in there, but also some chunkier books as well. So generally really happy with the mix. So the first book that I read was Unconditional, which is a novella in the Masters and Mercenaries Sanctum Knights series. So these go alongside the Masters and Mercenaries series, which is by Lexi Blake. These are based in and around the clubs with some of the side characters, but not kind of in the same security organisation. So Unconditional is a romance between Ashley, who is a single mum who is waitressing at Sanctum, which is the BDSM club the series is based around, and Keith, who is a dom who is relatively new to the area. Both of them have been mentioned in an earlier novella, but this is kind of the story of them coming together, of Keith introducing Ashley to the world of BDSM and what comes around from that. I really enjoyed this one. It's not like my absolute favourite, but I mean, Lexi Blake is generally amazing, and for a novella she manages to pack in an awful lot of stuff, so definitely really enjoyed reading that. So the next book I read was The Romance Recipe by Ruby Barrett. This is the Sapphic era FF contemporary romance, based around a restaurant that is owned by Amy and her head chef Sophie. So Sophie rose to fame through a reality TV cooking show, where she also ended up engaged to one of the production staff. But due to some issues relating to biphobia, it has to be said, so if that's a trigger for you, please be aware of that going in. That relationship ended. The restaurant is struggling a bit, and so Amy is looking for ways to raise their profile and keep them afloat, and Sophie is exploring the fact of recently realising that she is bisexual, and her growing feelings towards Amy. It was really good. I'll admit I was hoping for it to be like absolutely amazing. It just, something just wasn't quite there for me, but I really would recommend it. It's really good fun. If you like anything to do with restaurants, there's some nice stuff in there. The rep is fantastic. But yeah, as I say, it was, I mean, like, it was still really, really good. It just wasn't quite as amazing as I had been hoping for. But yeah, still love it. So then the next book that I read was The Rycke, I believe it's pronounced, by Mayne. So this is book 3 in the Monstrous series. So these are all dystopian monster romances, basically based in a version of our world where monsters have basically obliterated a lot of humans, and life for humans is very different. These were all on Kindle Unlimited, and they're definitely a series that you want to read in order. So Soul Eater is the first one. So this one is the romance between Ghost and Ari. So Ghost is a raider, so he's part of a raider camp, and he kind of, his role in the camp is just being that person that can get in and out of places to get what they need to keep things going. And Ari is a monster that he discovers while he's out on looking for some stuff, and takes him back to look after. Okay, sorry, my son just came in, so if my camera has moved slightly, that's because he knocked the tripod with the door, but there we go. Where were we? Yeah, so he finds this monster and brings him back. I really liked with this one that you got a lot of glimpse of kind of life in the raider camps. So there's been a lot of mention of the raider camps in the first 2 books, but it was a very different dynamic because you've got people who are kind of working as part of a group. You've got the history of some of the raider camps and the implications there, and also just the implication of this monster being like the big bad that you've heard about in the earlier books. Yeah, it was a really cool dynamic. Very much enjoying the series. I wouldn't say it's like my favourite series, but I'm really enjoying it, and I'm absolutely going to read all of them and know that I'll enjoy them all. And yeah, as I say, they're all on KU, so definitely worth giving a go. So then the 4th book that I read in September was my absolute most anticipated book of the month, and that was Submission Is Not Enough by Lexi Blake. This is the 12th book in the Masters and Mercenaries series, and some of the tropes that we have got in here, we've got a single mom, we've got kind of a form of second chance, we've got amnesia, we've got people who are forced to work together with the situation that they are in. I don't want to say too much about the background for this or the couple involved because it is actually kind of a spoiler for an earlier book. This is very much a series that you have to read in order. They are all fantastic, but this one, I mean, I was looking forward to this and it exceeded my expectations. It's still in my head. Coming up a month later, just so good, so many feelings. It absolutely broke and remade my heart a load of times. Plus, it was hot as hell because it's Lexi Blake. I mean, what were we expecting? But yeah, I mean, this was absolutely one of my top reads of the month. Loved it. And yeah, really recommend this series in case you didn't get that already. So then after that, I wanted a complete change of pace because when something's just completely consumed you, you do need to go completely different. And for that, I read That Time I Got Drunk and Yeeted a Love Potion at a Werewolf by Kimberly Lemming. So this is the 2nd book in the Maid Mishap series, the first one being That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon. I mean, these books should win awards for the titles alone. So these are really, really fun fantasy romance books. In this one we have our heroine is a cheesemaker called Brie. I would say cheesy names, but that's too much of a pun in this case, are just fantastic. And a werewolf called Felix. So Brie gets into a slight altercation at a bar with a jerk who won't let up with her. He tries to slip something into her drink and she throws it back at him. Doesn't hit him, in fact hits the werewolf behind him, and it turns out it is a love potion. So Felix, our werewolf, takes one look at Brie and goes, yeah, you're my one, you're my fated mate. And she's there kind of going, you got hit by a love potion, it's a love potion. And things kind of go from there. So there's a lot of this, are they actually fated mates? Is it actually the love potion? How much is real? How much is enhanced? It's just really good fun. And you know, there's like wild demon plots as well and things going on. But I love these books so much. They're just so sweet and lovely and spicy too. And yeah, I really recommend them. They're on Kindle Unlimited as well. So yeah, just definitely give those ones a try if you like good fun fantasy romance. So then next up, I read my 2nd sapphic book of the month, and that was Malice by Heather Walter. So this is actually, unusually for me, a YA fantasy book. I would say though it is on the kind of older end of YA, and there are quite a few romance plots in it for a fantasy book. This is a Sleeping Beauty retelling as well. So we have got our story, which is told from the point of view of Alice, who is known as the Dark Grace. So the Graces are able to kind of provide magical gifts to clients, but hers can only be ones that provide misfortune to whoever they're there. So while the other graces will make someone look beautiful or make them able to dance, the potions that she provides will make them come out in boils or make them trip over or things like that. But she's very, very powerful. And then we have also got Aurora, because as I say, this is a Sleeping Beauty retelling, who is the princess, and she's the heir to the crown, but she's also doomed to die on her 21st birthday if she hasn't had her true love's kiss by then. She's not really a fan of the way that her parents are approaching trying to get her true love's kiss, and she happens to meet Alice, and the two of them strike up a friendship, and things happen. This is a duet, so the second one is Miss Rule, which I'm really looking forward to reading. I really enjoyed this book. I think I gave it 4.5 stars. It was so good, and definitely I'd been nervous by reading it because of the YA aspect, but that wasn't a problem for me at all. I'm just trying to work out when to read it because Miss Rule's coming out in paperback next year, so it's just like, do I try and read it before then? Do I wait to paperback? Because I mean, look how lush this is. Oh, it's so pretty. I really love it. But yeah, so if you like fairy tale retellings, and then you like the sound of sapphic fantasy, then really recommend giving this one a go. So then from a kind of close to 500 page YA fantasy, I read an approximately like 50 page erotic novella. So this was Made for Her by Honey Chanel, and this is a, I would say romance. It's not really a romance because they're already together at the start, but basically between a maid and her boss. Like, her boss is married. She has a husband on the scene. The husband is not aware of what's going on, so it is cheating. But it's just basically a short story. Well, it's a bit longer than a short story, but a short novella of lots of sex, really. Not a lot happens. I saw McKay talk about this. Oh hey, it's McKay, on her channel, and basically just that it was a really hot time, but that's about it. And I completely agree. The book itself was not great. The writing was not my thing, but it was hot. It was fun. It's on Kindle Unlimited, so it didn't cost me anything. And yeah, if you just fancy this game, give it a go. Okay, so then my 8th book of the month, which was also my 100th read of the year. Very exciting landmark, that one. And that is what I set my annual reading goal to on Storygraph, so nice to tick that off. But it was Written in Red by Anne Bishop. So this is the first book in the series The Others. And this is one that I've got a couple of friends on Bookstagram, Kat and Tina, mostly you, who have been trying to get me to read this series for a long time. And so I finally started it. It's pretty chunky. So it's an urban fantasy series where your paranormal characters are very other. So your shifters are not like friendly people that you just want to see down the pub. Your vampires are not like your casual friends either. They are like really intense. So we've got a main character, Meg, who is on the run at the start, and she is trying to work out how to get away from some people, and she finds her way to one of the areas that is reserved. So it's a courtyard that's reserved for others, and she finds out that they are currently looking for a human liaison, and she uses that as a way to get away from the people who are chasing her. But obviously it does put her then in danger, because she's now completely under the rules of all these different people who human laws do not apply where they are. So in her work as the human liaison, she runs all like the delivery services and things like that, So she gets kind of an insight as to how everyone lives. And then there's a couple of people that she gets quite close to. And as you go through, you sort of find out more about why she's running, why it's worth that, and kind of relationships that she builds up. So I really enjoyed it. I'm really glad that I have picked this up. I think for a series opener in particular, it was really, really good. I'm very excited. I'm excited to read the others. I'm also very excited because I think there's like 5 books in this series. And for someone who reads a lot of series that are 20+ books, I love them. That's great. But sometimes it's nice to start a series and know that you're actually going to be able to finish it within a year. So yeah, really excited to read the next one of these. Okay, then the next book that I read was in one of the long series that I have been working my way through, and that was Archangel Shadows by Nalini Singh. So this is book 7, I think, in the Guild Hunter series, and so this is a paranormal romance, and between Ash, who is a hunter with the guild, and Janvier, who is a vampire. Now, both of them have been mentioned in earlier books in the series as sort of coming together and ending up crossing paths quite a lot. There's sort of a lot of jokingly enemies, jokingly flirting that goes on kind of behind the scenes, and this is their book. So they are forced to work together to do some work for the angels, so they've sort of had to work together quite a lot in the previous book, and that continues in here. And kind of as it goes through, you find out more about each of their backgrounds, and also why it is that Ash is very resistant to the two of them being together, and kind of the background behind that. I absolutely loved it. Again, one of my top reads of the month. I just thought like the romance between them was lush. Like, I love their interactions between them. I love the little bits of some of the other people that we get, some of the other characters on the side, and kind of the dynamics between that, where you've got a lot from the tower because of the work that Janvier does, but then you also get the guild things because of Ash. And yeah, it was really good. I mean, I'm enjoying this series generally, but this was definitely a highlight in it for me. So then, from a 5-star read to my lowest rating of the month, I then read A Lady of Rooksgrave Manor by Kathryn. So yeah, this is one that's been around a lot, so if you're on Bookstagram, Book Talk, then you might have seen it already, but this is a historical monster romance that is also a reverse harem, and basically it is based around this place that monsters can go to seek comfort from human women. And each of the girls have kind of a group of monsters that are assigned to them. Our heroine ends up kind of being referred for a job there by someone who is a patron there. So she's met him previously, and she sort of has these, I think it's like 5 guys of varying types of monster assigned to her. So she has got a vampire, she has got a sphinx, she's got a Jekyll and Hyde type character, she's got a golem, and she's got a guy that is cursed to be invisible. And yeah, it's just bonkers. Like, legitimately, the song Bonkers by Dizzy Rascal was going around my head most of the time that I was reading this, because it was the only way I could describe this. Our heroine is sex obsessed from the start, that's fine. Like, no shame to her, that's fine, that's a legitimate lifestyle, but like, it just made for a crazy book. There's in theory some things going on in terms of Rooksgrave Manor and some of the politics with that, and some of the other houses and things like that. You've got some of the dynamics between the monsters, but yeah, it was just bonkers, and I'm kind of glad I read it so that I know, but it's not one that personally I was massively impressed with. Yeah, if you really like monster romance and reverse harem, then I guess you could give it a go just for the novelty factor, but it's not one that I would be like, this is a stunning example, personally. There you go. Let's move on. Okay, so then I read another Kindle Unlimited book, and that was Hers to Claim by Ariel Murray, and this is book 4 in the Nightstar Shifters series, which is a sapphic paranormal romance series centering around a wolf shifter pack. So in this one of our heroines, Echo, is actually a bear shifter, and then we have Mindy, who is a wolf shifter. So this is the first one in the series that's had the bear shifters with any prominence. I think there might be another series that's got the bear shifters in, but I'm not sure, I've not really looked into it. But this whole series is fated mates, so when they see their mate, they know that they are their fated one. But Echo hasn't found her mate, and her parents are saying, look, we're bear shifters, for the good of the pack, we need to match you up with a bear, with, you know, a suitable bear of our choosing, and essentially it's an arranged mating, and that's kind of where we start, that she is being pressured into that. But at a party to celebrate this mating that she is being forced into, she meets Mindy, a wolf shifter heroine, who of course turns out to be her fated mate. But where we've got Echo, who would happily be mated, just not to the person her parents want her to, we've got Mindy, who is very happy living the single life, working on her photography business, and just being Miss Independent. This was my favourite one so far. I really loved it. We have some really nice plus size rep with Echo, and just Mindy treating her like the absolute queen that she is. I would say that she has had some stick in the past from some of her pack about her size, so just be aware of that if that is a trigger for you. But generally, if you like fated mates, if you like shifters, and just give it a go. It's really good fun. So the next book I read was the book that I have owned the longest without reading, so I do try and read that one every month, and that was The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. So I bought this at the start of the year, I think, when like loads of people were talking about it and talking about how amazing it was. But then by the time I started actually thinking about reading it, it had got to that divisive part where everyone was either obsessed with it or hated it, and I just saw so many people just talking about how terrible it was that I just didn't get around to reading it. So yeah, so I read it to get it off my list, essentially. So this is a fake dating contemporary romance from the point of view of Catalina, our heroine, and we have also got Aaron, who is our hero. If you're familiar with a lot of very popular contemporary romances, I will say, basically, if you took The Hating Game and The Love Hypothesis and they had a child, it's this book. Definitely like really strong Hating Game vibes in here, and I think you need to be aware of that. So there is fake dating, she really doesn't like him, they are colleagues, so we've got kind of the workplace situation. But basically she is about to go back to Spain from the US for her sister's wedding, and has accidentally told her parents that she's taking her boyfriend. So she needs a date to go with her, and Aaron volunteers to go with her for that. And so you've kind of got what goes on before they go to Spain, and then everything that happens once they're actually there. The family dynamics are really good fun. I was always kind of like, which side am I going to be? Am I going to be this is the best thing ever, or am I going to be that this is rubbish? And obviously I'm neither, because that would be too simple. I really enjoyed it. I'm like 4.5 stars. I think I put this as 4.5 stars on Storygraph. I really enjoyed it. It wasn't perfect. I'm not going to say this is the best book ever. I think you really have to take it as what it is. It's not like supposed to be some classic literary masterpiece. It is a fake dating office romance where certain things are patently obvious to you as the reader that are not obvious to the main character whose point of view you are reading. That's the whole point. I will say Catalina does struggle with her eating and some diet culture issues near the start of this book. So, and there's some not amazingly great language used around that. So if things related to diet culture are something that's triggering to you, really do be aware of that and maybe consider giving this one a miss. Like it kind of works out for her, but just be aware of that language that is used in there. But yeah, I'm glad I finally read it. So then the next book that I read was Dungeon Games by Lexi Blake. So this was another novella in the Masters and Mercenaries Sanctum Night series. And this one was Karina and Derek. So Karina is a PI and Derek is a cop. So they have been mentioned quite a bit in the Masters and Mercenaries books. So I was quite excited for this one to kind of see how that worked. They have both been kind of attracted to each other, but also had a lot of falling outs when they've been forced together for work reasons. There's been a lot of digging between the two of them, and they also have quite a lot of baggage, each of them, from past relationships that kind of is colouring the way that they're looking at each other. But they're both pulled in to help investigate a serial killer who is targeting subs that have been to particular BDSM clubs. And so they have to be part of that investigation. They have to work together. There's a lot of false proximity in here. I really, really loved it. I mean, again, like I said earlier, it's Lexi Blake. She's not going to do me wrong. Just the way the relationship between the two of them built up. We've got kind of some PTSD references in there which were handled really well, and them discovering why each other feels the way they are, and then you kind of got that mystery plot going through, and them trying to solve what's happening in these murders and the dangers that are around that as well. Just absolutely fantastic. And I definitely recommend it, particularly if you like the series. You get some nice little glimpses of some of the other characters as well, which I really love. I love when that happens. It's like that little slice of life in the world. I would say you don't have to read the earlier two novellas if you don't want to read this one, but you would probably get far more out of it if you have read the books in the main series. But yeah, really, really enjoyed it. I'm really glad I read it. And then my final read of the month was actually an anthology. So it was Wild Embrace by Nalini Singh. So this is an anthology of novellas and a short story in the Psy Changeling world. So the first novella that we have got is Stefan's book. So Stefan is a Psy who gets mentioned in the main series as being based on like this underwater research station, and some of the things around him, so he gets mentioned a lot. Really intriguing character, but this is his romance in here. So this is between him and a human, Tazi, I think her name is, and she's sort of estranged from her family, and he's quite isolated because he's a Psy and he can't have any emotions, but he feels quite a few emotions, particularly around her. He's a TK Psy, telekinetic Psy, and I don't think I've met one of these in the series that I didn't fall in love with, so there we go. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed that one. Then next we had some short stories about Dorian, who is one of the Dark River shifters. So there's just some bits about him growing up and then a little bit after his book as well. And they were just super sweet. It was really funny kind of seeing the prominent Dark River members as teenagers. And then the next novella in it was Felix and Desi, I want to say. So he is a submissive wolf in Snowdancer and she is a dominant leopard in Dark River. I really kind of liked that combination, and with him kind of trying to look at his place in the pack, particularly having been burnt by a dominant in the past. Just a really sweet romance between them, the way that like they interact with each other, the catcalling that they get from the pack. I mean, I love the pack dynamics. Basically Snowdancer, I love them, they're fantastic. But you also get the Dark River side of things as well. And then the last novella in this one was Kenji and Garnet. They are both wolves in Snowdancer, and this one is kind of a second chance. So they were childhood friends, and it looked like they were going to get together, but something happened and they got driven apart, and then they're that bit older, forced to work together. So more close proximity. We love close proximity, and start to realise that actually maybe things didn't go quite as they thought they did when you look back with some perspective. And yeah, I really love this. Honestly, this book just made me so happy. I had a massive grin on my face pretty much the whole time I was reading it. I'm really glad I picked it up, and I'm really glad I still have those little bits of the Sight Changeling universe to go back into. Just not that many left now. I can still keep holding on hope. I've got one more anthology, which probably I'll read in October, I think. So there you go. That was the 14 books that I read in September. As I say, some absolutely amazing ones in there, some slightly random ones, and just a lot of different books that made me happy. Let me know if you've read any of these, or if you'd like to, and what your thoughts are on them, and you know how your reading month was in September. Hopefully I'm coming off the end of illness, so I will actually be able to get a video up sooner than like 2 weeks, which I think this has been since the last one, but we will see. But yeah, hopefully I will see you soon.